Yes, the group is great, but the wide receivers are going to be even better than advertised in 2025.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Happy Monday. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year covering the University of Louisville, 4th year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. We are less than 3 weeks away from the opening kickoff for Louisville football. We are going to begin the week by discussing some notable developments throughout fall camp early on for the Louisville Cardinals. The wide receivers, really solid 1-2 punch. The group as a whole is going to be even better than advertised in 2025. There will be some QB talk. Miller Moss shines. Deuce Adams getting some first-team reps. What's that all about? And then the defensive line showing out early on in fall camp, primed for a bounce-back season upcoming here in a couple of months. But first, today's episode of the show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I was out of town all last week, had the top 15 player ranking episodes pre-recorded. Seemed like those went smoothly. Thanks for tuning into those. If you haven't already, they're up on the YouTube page and on all audio streaming services, including Apple, Spotify, you name it. But we're 3 weeks or less than 3 weeks away from that opening kickoff against Eastern Kentucky. And I wanted to start the week out by discussing some notable fall camp developments. Now, I haven't really been able to be there due to my schedule, but I've had some boots on the ground, and a couple of accounts have matched up with what other parties have said, from the Pink Seats podcast, Matt McGavick, and I believe even Jody Demling sort of echoing some of these sentiments. And 3 of them today: wide receivers, quarterbacks, defensive line. We'll start with the wide receivers. We know that the Cardinals have perhaps one of, if not the best, 1-2 punch, 1A, 1B wide receiver duo in the conference, like Chris Bell, Caullin, Lacy, going to have great seasons respectively and collectively. Now, Chris Bell apparently did, I think it was some sort of car accident. We saw the pictures of his vehicle, looked like up on the median almost. But he's good, 100% fine. He was working the jugs machine the day after his accident. He's made some big-time plays in fall camp. The same with Caullin Lacy. Like, there was a play on Friday. Miller Moss hit Caullin Lacy on a beautiful pass from about 35 to 40 yards out, over-the-shoulder catch for a touchdown. Those 2 guys, you know what you're going to get. Like, big-time playmakers, going to shoulder the workload for this receiving core in 2025. However, the conversation and discussion has really been centered around wide receiver 3. Position battle that I highlighted as one that I'm watching the closest, because you have like 5 to 6 guys competing for that role. And truthfully, that role is probably going to be broken up into like a by committee thing. But Dakari Collins, TreyShun Hurry, Antonio Meeks, Jaden King, Chris Hughes, TJ McWilliams, Bobby Golden, like the list goes on, right? Like, there are so many players that are just competing for a small amount of spots. And it's one of those where, iron sharpens iron. But from all accounts, early on in fall camp, the talk, it's not like years past to where it's like, okay, well, somebody has to step up. And the player that steps up is going to be wide receiver 3. Like, you remember that in the Satterfield days, like, who's going to step up? That's not been the case this season or this fall camp season. Like, this has been a situation where everyone is stepping up. Like, yes, iron is truly sharpening iron here. Like, you are seeing multiple players step up and just have phenomenal fall camps. I start with the guy that I think is going to start the year at wide receiver 3, and that's TreyShun, the transfer from San Jose State. That home run threat, one of the only true like deep ball home run threats on the team. He had an acrobatic catch early on in fall camp that sort of went viral amongst Card Nation's social media. You've seen him make a handful of plays this season. It's like, or I keep saying this season, this fall camp period, and you're just sitting there saying, man, this isn't like a normal wide receiver 3. Like, I believe that TreyShun in a normal season without as many candidates that are competing for the spot, like, he's really, really going to have a breakout year. And I mean, could he definitely have that this season? Yeah, I think he's going to have a respectable breakout year. But what does that look like statistically? TreyShun has made play after play. He's been very reliable and just putting that deep threat potential and skill set on display. Now, perhaps the biggest winner in the wide receiver group in fall camp has been Antonio Meeks. Antonio Meeks joined the Cardinals program not this past offseason, but the one before that. Didn't really have much of an impact. 3 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was, and over half of his yards was on 1 catch in the Sun Bowl, in the bowl game. But the 6'2" receiver who transferred in before last season has made a name for himself in the spring. Don't forget, he looked really good in spring ball. That momentum is carrying over into fall camp. Like, he has been perhaps the biggest playmaker, I'll say, in the receiving core, because Duke Watson and Isaac Brown, of course, have looked really good in the backfield. But Antonio Meeks has been making play after play after play. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And then you've got sort of the same thing with Dakari Collins, the NC State transfer. He knows what to expect from ACC ball. I don't think that he has the open field explosiveness that you see with guys like TreyShun and, of course, Caullin Lacy, and even Antonio Meeks to a degree. I think that Dakari Collins is going to be one of those like jump ball specialist receivers, possession guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a differentiating skill set. But he is putting his name into the hat, saying, you know what? Yeah, TreyShun has played great. Antonio has played great. Don't forget about me now. And those are sort of the three, the 3 candidates that we had thought about beforehand. Now you've got Bobby Golden, who a possession guy in the slot, who I think he's going to back up Caullin Lacy. But TJ McWilliams, the transfer from Minnesota, you go back to ACC media days. Miller Moss, other members of the program that were there, highlighted TJ McWilliams as being one of the more reliable guys in that room. Miller Moss discussing the chemistry that he's building with him. Another guy that you're throwing into the mix. And, oh, by the way, that's not all. Yes, and Sean Boykins is transitioning to running back. That's going to open up maybe a spot on the depth chart. But Chris Hughes, remember Chris Hughes? Walk-on that has been able to make a name for himself, at least in spring games and in off-season practices. Last season, 7 for 54 as a true freshman, 5'11" from Morganfield, Kentucky, is going to be a player that does get an opportunity in the mix. So I'm interested to see how this battle continues through fall camp, but even more so intrigued about, the first 3 weeks or first 3 games of the season, by all accounts, should be an extension of fall camp, an extension of that position battle, because chances are they're going to be blowout games if Louisville handles business, and you're going to get a look at almost every player in contention for this role. Just kind of highlights to me and confirms to me that it's going to be a by committee approach for that wide receiver group. But you take this as a collective unit. All these guys are making plays, and it's not years past of how, well, you've got a really top-heavy room, but somebody's got to step up. I think you're going to see a lot of guys step up. And this valuable depth that you have is such a luxury to have if you are the Louisville Cardinals. So wide receivers are going to be better than advertised, in my opinion. How have the quarterbacks looked? We'll discuss when we come back on this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, today's episode of the show brought to you by Game Time. Look, we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories and not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, because that's where Game Time comes into play. It makes getting concert tickets faster and easier. And what I learned is you can save up to 60% off with their last minute deals, which is exactly what I did when I went to go see Creed back in July. Great concert that I decided to go to very last minute. The prices were lower than any other service out there. You got a panoramic view from your seat, so I knew what I was buying before I even got to that checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms supply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube, 5 days a week, your team every day. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or any audio services or platforms, so you are alerted when an episode goes live. So it's Monday. We're just under 3 weeks away from the first game of the season. Gosh, it's getting so close. We're continuing to talk about some of the fall camp notable developments. And I think a lot of people want to know about the quarterbacks. How is Miller Moss looking? What about QB2? What's happening in that position battle? It seems like Miller Moss is having a good camp. It's been sort of ups and downs. He's had some plays where he's gotten intercepted, not on the same page as receivers, some suboptimal throws. But look, that's fall camp. You can't really take too much away. Like, you have to be honest about like what you're taking away from these fall camp developments. Like, you can't. It's like a fine line. Like, you can understand the significance of some developments, but you can't like go all in and let that sort of, skew your perception or skew your beliefs. Especially with the quarterback play, like Miller Moss making some mistakes here and there, it doesn't mean that he's not the guy. I think he showed this past week that he was the guy. Like, I mean, spring practice, Miller Moss came in and was as good as advertised. You could tell he's continuing to build the relationship and the chemistry and camaraderie with his receivers through spring camp, but much more on the same page in fall camp is what I was told. Like, he was making some great throws this past week. Of course, on Friday, he had that play to Caullin Lacy, some throws on the run. Like, Miller Moss is going to be that guy. Something else that I was also told, and it looks like from the Pink Seats pod also tweeted this out, is Moss has done a great job of identifying zone coverage, being able to, and that's one of the things that we really talked about when he committed, is how smart of a quarterback he is, how much he has a great feel, not only in the pocket, but what the opposing defense is doing. It's just a matter of sort of like preventing that turnover possibility, like taking away those deep throws into double coverage, trying to fit those tight window throws in, and they've traditionally turned into either incompletions or, unfortunately, turnovers. He had 9 interceptions last season. So I look for him to be able to have that career year that we talked about. He's made some great plays, especially this past week. Miller Moss is doing everything that you need him to do. The main thing is just keeping him healthy. That is the utmost important goal. Like, that is the goal, keeping him healthy. Also, Deuce Adams getting some first-team reps. Now, again, this is what I mean when I say that you can't look too much into things, because it's not really a shock to see a backup quarterback get some first-team reps, because you never know. You want to have your QB2 as prepared as he can be. But is Deuce Adams QB2? We talked about the backup quarterback battle being one that we're watching. Like, is Deuce Adams sort of separating himself from Brady Allen and Mason Mims? And Mason Mims is a redshirt candidate, but is Deuce Adams separating himself and rising into that backup quarterback role? Because, everyone appreciates what Brom has been able to do with the transfer portal quarterbacks, but I think if you would ask the majority of Card Nation, they would tell you that they're really wanting an internal option to be able to develop in this system and potentially be the starter in 2026. Everyone's kind of circled Deuce Adams as that hopeful quarterback in waiting for next season to be the starter. And I think that for that to come to reality and come to life, you need him to start taking those steps forward now. Taking those first team reps sort of shows me that he is, at the very least, maybe winning that position battle. Now, of course, you're going to get more opportunities to show it in the first 3 games of the year, or you should. But it's awesome to see Deuce having some awesome moments. I mean, he's got a live arm. Like, the arm talent is incredible. Ability to throw on the run, solid pocket presence. Like, the thing has always been with Deuce, got to speed up that internal clock. Like, he's got to make decisions sooner. He's got to be, sold on the decisions that he's making. And it looks like, by all accounts, he's turning that corner, which is awesome. Now, some of these first-team reps have been option reps. Like, I am just fine with not having Miller Moss run option reps in fall camp. Like I said, you're doing everything you can to keep him healthy, because a lot of your success rides on the fact that Miller Moss has to stay healthy. Can Deuce Adams come in and win you games? I mean, possibly, but there's a drop off, right? And there is a portion of this fan base, albeit it's small, that believe that Deuce Adams will win this job halfway through the year. I don't see it, unless Miller just gets hurt or he is 1,000% unable to get going. I don't see it. And it would be really bad if that was the case. And it's not disrespectful to Deuce, because I think that Deuce's time is coming. Just not this year. And nothing that I've heard about from fall camp confirms to me that, Deuce is really competing for QB1. Now, what I will say, and what would not surprise me, is Deuce to have a couple plays in games against formidable competition. Like, there will be some design packages for Deuce, either to run the option, run the, more so in the name of RPOs. Like, I think that that's where he could be effective, like a couple plays throughout games. Of course, game-specific situational context factored into this discussion. Might not be every game. And I don't think it's going to be a situation where, like, early to mid-2000s, to where your backup quarterback gets a drive in the second half every game. I think you're going to have some design plays for Deuce Adams, and it's going to keep defenses keep them off balance. And just great to hear about Deuce. I love that we are getting some good information and tidbits out of fall camp. And it's sort of just, and no disrespect to Brady Allen, of course, it feels like everyone just wants Deuce Adams to eventually be that guy, and then Mason Mims potentially be that guy, and then Briggs Cherry be that guy. Like, I am okay with taking transfer portal players, don't get me wrong, especially quarterback, because you're giving yourself a great opportunity to win. But in the same discussion, I also understand the desire to have continuity. at that position and have a potential multiple year starter. So Miller shining, Deuce Adams getting first team reps. Take that for what it is. Don't take the significance away from it, but don't make it more than what it actually is. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how the interior and, well, actually the entire defensive line, how they are showing up and showing out early in fall camp, primed for a bounce back season in 2025. Card Nation, there will be 4 episodes this week. We will have, of course, the episode today about some fall camp developments. Tomorrow, we'll discuss Kason Pryor updating Card Nation on where his rehab currently sits, if he's going to be ready for the start of the season, and more. We'll talk about the coaches football poll. The Cardinals just outside of the top 25. So not ideal, but then again, the only thing that matters is winning games. We'll have a weekly mailbag, so get those questions introduced and asked, and much more. But to conclude the show today, we're going to talk about the final fall camp development. That is the defensive line. And the defense as a whole, look, it's under a microscope, right? Last year, and it's not just the personnel on the field, it's the coaching staff. It's Ron English. Like, you're making sure that the defense isn't going to hold you back this season. And I think a lot of that is the secondary, but it also starts up front. Like, the Cardinals' defensive line, front 7 last year to start the year, didn't really live up to expectations. Now, it got better at the end of the year, but how much of that was due to the lackluster competitions? Anyways, the defensive line has had multiple players that have had really good starts to fall camp. You know your starters, Rene, Konga, Jordan, Guerad, if they stay healthy, going to be really good from at least the starting perspective. Jeff Brom did say after the scrimmage that the defense is getting better, preventing big plays, preventing passes over our head is what we need to do. For the most part, we did pretty good there. There were a few times, since it wasn't live tackle, that we probably could have made a play or made a hit. One of those was JoJo Evans in the secondary, and we allowed to make a catch or two. But overall, I thought it was a good job once again by our first unit. Brom goes on to say, I thought we got good push up front by our defensive line. Plenty of push up front, some batted balls that were really beneficial. Great effort on the defensive line, so that was good to see. And that sort of is a continuation from the spring game. The Louisville defensive line made life difficult for the offensive line in the spring game. Adonijah Green, Micah Carter, of course, not all the transfers were there yet, but one transfer that has been showing out, and I'm not sure if he's going to start. I think he's going to be a very valuable backup. That's Denzel Lowry. Denzel Lowry has made some plays, a couple of passes broken up at the line of scrimmage. He's transferring from Old Dominion, where he had a career-high 51 tackles last season, around 10 total sacks in 4 seasons. I don't really worry about the run defense. I think the run defense is going to be really, really stout. And that's been a trademark of the Cardinals' defensive front, even going back to the Scott Satterfield days of just being able to neutralize the opposing team's rushing attack. Now, the edge rushers have been pretty solid. Clev Lubin making plays. Adonijah Green, I think he goes by AJ Green now, and that's been throwing me off because I think about the Cincinnati Bengals receiver, AJ Green. But AJ has sort of been putting it together. Something we talked about in the top 15 player rankings. Like, if he puts it together, watch out. This guy can be a star with his 6'6", 250-pound frame. Also, on the other side, Wesley Bailey, Justin Beatles, 2 transfers that have been bright spots in fall camp. Another name that I'm excited to see after what I've heard in fall camp. Now, even more excited because I was excited to watch him play before fall camp. Saint X product Micah Carter. This will be his third season with the Cardinals, and he is a player that is going to factor into the two deep. Like, the run defense looks really solid. And in fall camp, this is one of those things where you can't put too much stock into things because you can't touch the quarterback, right? Quarterback's got those green jerseys on. Like, yeah, you can, pull out all the stunts. You can go 1v1 against opposing offensive linemen. You can get valuable reps in, but you can't complete the play. Like, you can go past the quarterback, of course. Can't really complete the play and complete the sack. And that's something that last season, like, Louisville sometimes got to the quarterback. They got the quarterback pressures, but early on, that didn't really translate to sacks. They really couldn't complete the play. And maybe that was because they played more mobile quarterbacks. And this season, I don't think that that's going to be the case. You're going to play some, but it's not going to be a schedule dominated by mobile, agile quarterbacks like it was last year. So, I mean, you're watching these, defensive linemen have some solid performances. So don't forget that, Rene Konga and Jordan Guerad are your projected starters. But that doesn't mean that Denzel Lowry and Jerry Lawson can't also factor into the mix. Kind of looking through some of the notes that I had, just kind of, getting them all together. Micah Carter had a couple of big-time plays. Beatles had, I think, a tackle for a loss on, Wednesday or Thursday against an option play. Again, can't really take too much away from fall camp, but it's good to know that it's not the other way around. It's not like Jeff Brom saying, hey, I need more from this group. It's not like that with the wide receiver room. It's not like that with the defensive line. And honestly, like, the secondary apparently is maybe better than advertised as well. Jabari Mack has been making plays. JoJo Evans might be, outside of Rodney Johnson, the most impressive defensive back in fall camp. So overall, some great news that we've heard. We're still about 3 weeks away from the season. Main thing here for me, I'm going to say it once, I'll say it 1,000,000 times. Got to stay healthy. As much as you can. I know that football is 100% contact and violent sport, but you have to do what you can to just stay healthy. And the longer that you go without sustaining injuries, the better that it's going to be for the Cardinals. So that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of the show. When we come back tomorrow, it's all about Kason Pryor and what his availability looks like for the beginning of the season. Everyone have a great start to your week. Go Cards.